afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Propagandacast with me, your host, Imperial Dane, featuring today a 1 vs 1 on Angoville. In the fields of Angoville, we shall be watching Fire Dragonfly fighting for the Panzer Elite for the 17th SS Panzergrenadier Division, Götz von Berlichingen, leading the way with one of the two other SS Panzer Divisions, Ausklärungsabteilungs, that had been attached to it, that is, reconnaissance units from the 9th and 10th SS Panzer Division, had been attached to the 17th, likely to give it a bit more force, a bit more veteran troops. But we shall be watching him going up against Stephenn JF. Stephenn fighting for the United States, rolling out for the 3rd Armoured Division. Hurrah, huzzah, and all that. 2 engineers start from not Ham, that's Danish for him. Not entirely sure why that one came out. 2nd Schwimmwagen on the way after 2 Panzer Grenadier squads. Gewehr 45 being equipped there with the Panzer Grenadiers. So far, so good. And of course, feel free to send in replays. Of course, no guarantees that will be casted. Of course, always the question is if they're entertaining and something they're interesting to point out. But still, currently a huge dearth of replays. Not really much going on, and what there are well getting fought over. Panzer Grenadiers on the way. 2nd Schwimmwagen. Heavy focus from Fire Dragonfly towards the east. Engineers sneaking about there. Points being secured there. 17th SS was not exactly an elite SS unit. In fact, its first battle, the Battle of Carentan, saw it losing 20 of its Stugs during the assault of that town, and I believe about 1,000 troops were casualties as well. Or at least close to 1,000, so not really an auspicious start for a fresh division which had not even received its full training. Now going up there, Rifleman heading ahead. Panzers in the north, Panzers in the east, pulling away. Schwimmwagen moving away, Rifleman pushing up, engineers well, taking up position there. So far so good, more Panzer Grenadiers on the way, and we also see very aggressive move by Fire Dragonfly towards the west. Going to cut off Stephenn's fuel, so very specific harassment targets right here from Fire Dragonfly. Engineers here running into a bit of a problem with some Panzer Grenadiers. Panzer Grenadiers running from house to house, keeping Stephenn's engineers on the hook. And there we go. I mean, Stephenn's also basically just running about, taking pods, or at least trying to harass, while Fire Dragonfly is trying to catch him. Of course, as soon as he gets into that, he gets behind the shed, and of course, the Panzer Grenadiers can't touch them. So instead of just running in and going, "Hey, engineers, stop doing so, or we will shoot you in the face even more," Stephenn just keeps running from house to house, trying to catch the engineers. Of course, he's worried about, running after them as well, I suppose, because then the engineers will just run into the house themselves and take it from Stephenn. But now instead they end up running into the wooden shed. Stephenn might have his slight curious about that one. And we do see Stephenn, the engineer, actually going down inside the shed, left on the tool floor. And a bit of harassment going on here. The Schwimmwagen trying to delay Stephenn's at the fuel point, and there we go. Nasty move there by Fire Dragonfly. Stephenn securing the fuel down there. But Stephenn, though, is securing a nice chunk of the map. Panzer is moving in after the engineers, and we are seeing a comfortable company going pretty swiftly up for Fire Dragonfly. And there we go. The engineers are finally pushed away. Too many bullets into them. Of course, the last one to make a hasty run for it, and there we go. The comfortable company. What shall Fire Dragonfly put out from it? We do not know. Panzer Grenadiers moving west, and Rifleman moving up here, and this is quite exposed for the time being. And we are seeing a jeep up from Stephenn, rushing ahead at the Panzer Grenadiers, coming in a bit of fire. And a bit of light skirmishing over here as Rifleman squad gets caught up by the Panzer Grenadiers. Getting blasted at a bit. Panzer Grenadier actually goes down. Jeep moves around, and we are seeing a Schwimmwagen going to spot, but already one Panzer squad actually took sufficient losses during the attack to actually be forced away. Jeep rushing in. We're in fact seeing an infantry half-track coming out for Fire Dragonfly. Clearly the providence of those 9th or 10th SS units, as the 17th SS had no half-tracks at all, at least none in the reconnaissance units or in the Panzer Grenadier units. Whereas the reconnaissance units attached would likely have been the ones with the half-tracks. I think so anyways. And there we go, rushing out, light machine gun already finding away at the Jeep down to half health, pushing away. Already there, though. I mean, Fire Dragonfly's making some mistakes. He's spreading out a bit too far, allowing Stephenn to seize across a larger part of the map with ease. Already cutting off the vital resource points. Definitely a bit of a mistake there by Fire Dragonfly. And there we go. Steve immediately taking up position in the house to fire down upon any German troops. Do we see any incendiary grenades to be used to burn them out? Nope. No such luck. That would have been a good move. And there we go. We actually see Stephenn vacating the premises. Apparently a bit worried, or perhaps trying to lure him in to the broader side of the building. And there we go. Stephenn does so successfully. Fire Dragonfly falls in the trap. Panzer goes up here, getting assaulted by some few engineers. Schwimmwagen cutting around there. And there we go. Stephenn is going to set up a trap here, going to sneak in on a rifleman squad, going to catch the troops between two buildings, although not really the most impressive trap, since on both sides, I mean, there's not really a lot of windows they can fire up, so I mean, they basically look going, one guy's, you know, shooting out the window while the rest basically cheers him on. Come on, Jack, you can shoot some krauts. Come on, yeah, shoot them. Can't I shoot instead? I'm a better marksman than Jack. Anyways, keep rushing in. We managed to reconnect all of this, but we do see the fuel here falling, and slightly, my apologies for the slightly awkward angle. There we go, getting that squad into the house there again, causing problems. Another infantry half attack, still no incendiary grenades by the looks of it. And here we go, Fire Dragonfly realizing he just has to ignore it, focus on the squishy targets outside of the buildings and shoot them down. Fill them with bullets, riddle their bodies with death. And there we go, and that rather leaves the squad inside the house a bit more lonely, with the jeep driving around. Pushing up here, looks like another gewehr for the fleet has been equipped. Half track here though, needs to be careful, more particularly though the squad inside needs to be, and there we go, down to half health already with this half track, this light Schützenpanzerwagen. Fuel here falling into the hands. Fire Dragonfly gaining some territory back. Damaged engine, Panzer was taking losses. Infantry again, though, need to be careful with these riflemen inside the building. On the right here, we do see a lot of fire being poured down upon the riflemen down to half health. Still, half tracks need to get out of there, and they need to get repaired. A good move in this case could actually be either getting expert repairs from the Kampfgruppe Company, or just calling in some Luftwaffe ground forces, going for the Luftwaffe doctrine. That is also a valid choice in the fight against the Amerikaner. Rather than having a bit of a problem with the infantry half-tech, only 2 Panzer goes in, but still can do a lot of damage. Of course, the half-tech will absorb most of the damage, ensuring that he doesn't have to spend a lot of resources on reinforcing. And there we go, squad already decimated, low on health. Still plenty of men, but will quickly get cut down. And there we go, the other half-tech quickly needs to get there. The other one's getting assaulted. Again, there we go, dropping into the house, allowing them to fire safely down upon the infantry half-tech and its occupants. And there we go, infantry half-tech lost. 4 Fire Dragonfly. Quite a shame to be able to see a Panzer support command going up. The other half-tech rushing in, but it is simply too late. And the men inside the half-tech also die in the explosion. That is catastrophic for Fire Dragonfly and his reconnaissance troops. What a shame, what a shame. More troops rushing in. Bit of a nasty situation at the moment for Fire Dragonfly as Stephenn continues pushing very aggressively. Using buildings to great effect, and of course just jumping about, taking points, trying to fight where Fire Dragonfly isn't, or at least is not so strong. Now trying to get that second infantry half-track, and succeeds. Oh dear. That is not good for Fire Dragonfly, that is not good. Panzer support command up. Fuel here being secured. Here we go again, cutting off the territory, cutting off the resources. Schwimmwagens are still there though, which is always something, and getting a third infantry half-track. I mean, I think it's actually quite rare to see a player who's actually that dedicated to continuing on with the infantry half-track despite already having lost 2. Of course, at this stage, with this one, he could basically consider just upgrading and going for a Panzer IV infantry support tank, and in this case, the Panzer gun is actually force away Stephenn's rifleman. That's definitely interesting. I would have imagined Stephenn would have fought on Funko Sam and Liberty, but apparently Stephenn just, you know, ran away. And there you go, Flamethrower Engineers already on the spot, quickly toasting a few krauts. Another infantry half-track rolling up. Anti-tank half-track on the way, so clearly no sign of a Panzer IV infantry support tank anytime soon. I mean, that could have been a nice move from Fire Dragonfly. I mean, that would definitely be a nasty surprise for Stephenn and his riflemen. Let's go look at Stephenn, who's going currently for the motor pool. Infantry half track rushes up here, Rifle squad pushed away. Stephenn clearly not intent on finding a 1 versus 1 with the infantry article with a squad of panzers in it, which is actually a good idea, since that is a lethal combination. Ooh, mines over here, but I need to be careful. Careful, engineers, you might get gunned down. And there we go. Easy targets while laying down the mines. Oh, Fire Dragonfly should have pushed in, but apparently he was worried about something. In fact, rushing in the Schwimmwagen first to check for mines before perhaps anything, but no. Diverted back to see Schwimmwagen over here from another rifle squad. At the same time, push up here. Anti-tank half-tech with Panzer Grenadiers supporting. Bit of resources being flowed there by Capitan Stephenn. And there we go. Rifleman simply getting beaten up by that half-track. The other one here, though, needs to be careful. It's an anti-tank half-track, not a rush in and shoot up Yankees half-track. Not unless you're focusing fire with, in which case there's a good chance of actually killing someone. And there we go. Robert went down to a 37mm round from that half-track. Schwimmwagen repaired. And looks like he's getting something again from the Kampfgruppe Company. He seems to quite fancy that. And of course, having seen the anti-tank half-track, Stephenn is quick to get an anti-tank gun of his own, since he knows an armor car would quickly get locked down, and at the same time also equipping his rifle with a Browning automatic, making him that much more of a threat to fire Dragonfly's vehicles. Also a good move, and of course also versus the infantry half-track. So in that case, Fire Dragonfly needs to be careful. We see a mortar half-track out now. A rather solid mechanized force up for Fire Dragonfly, just if he only could have kept his 2 half-tracks a bit more together. And again, in that sense, having gone for early Luftwaffe might help. Now, he needs to pull out the half-track, though. He needs to save it. I mean, if it stays too close, that would definitely go down. Come on, Fire Dragonfly, keep moving, keep moving. Oh dear, no! He popped out the Panzer gun, is right in front of them. And that was terrible. And Stephenn's forces advances like a huge vengeful wave of rifles and flames. In fact, see the Fire Dragonfly is being knocked and put back. Come on, keep the infantry half-track moving. Oh dear, Fire Dragonfly was simply too slow, or something, I'm not entirely sure. Either way, that's a 3rd infantry half-track lost. You might want to consider actually getting a Bergetig at this stage. Mortar rounds going down. There we go. Flak feeling opening up. And oh, the half-track goes down. The flak feeling could not save it. Oh dear. There we go. Anti-tank gun ready. Armored car on the way as well. This is not looking good for our German friend. Who's now going for the Panzerjäger command. Might be hungry for a few armored cars to save the day, though again, I think an attempt at a Panzer IV might have worked better. At least that will be my personal opinion. Looks like he's gone for Scorched Earth. Not entirely sure that is what he should have gone. Perhaps Tank Destroy Doctrine would have been more useful. I mean, generally Scorched Earth is not necessarily the best doctrine in a 1 versus 1. It's more of a team doctrine, but particularly not with the sort of condition that Fire Dragonfly is in. That is, he's not got a lot of troops, he's not got a lot of territory, you know, overall a strong force. He needs something to augment it, either to mines, Hetzers, or Luftwaffe troops, and that, well, is obviously not going to happen then. Anti-tank half-tank needs to be careful. There we go, Rifle score absolutely catching on fire as demo booby traps go off. It looks like he went for a dual variant of it. Actually setting off both the incendiary and the explosive variant. That's... or is that a semi-incendiary trap? Which is also a possibility. Mines going down for Stephenn already having the minesweepers. Of course, he might, of course, be more used to at this stage, because again, now a lot of Panzer League players go for Tank Destroy Doctrine. Of course, that his opponent might have been laying down Telemines, and so in that case, he prepared himself for Telemines with the minesweeper. In this case, though, that did not work out for Stephenn, because clearly, Fire Dragonfly is going for Scorched Earth instead of you know, say tank destroyer or again Luftwaffe, which could have had butterfly bombs, which also get swept. Oh yes, time for the mid-game analysis. Again, bit of a short match, again, what we currently have to work with, but still, I mean, Fire Dragonfly's current situation is a bit dismal, not looking good. It needs to focus, it needs to launch a proper counter-attack, it needs to stop spreading out so much, which is a bit part of his problem, and of course, he needs to work a bit better with preserving his half-tracks. For the time being, though, he needs to build up something, I think, with a bit more punch, a bit more armor. I think the Panzer IV would do well. Of course, it could try with a few armored cars, but of course, they're also quite more vulnerable, in particular to the BARs, armored cars, and anti-tank guns, whereas the Panzer IV really would only have to worry about the anti-tank, and if properly used, could actually flank the anti-tank and then wreck it. Plus, at the same time, could deal with the armored car and could also deal with the rifleman quite more satisfying. And that's the word, satisfying, yes. So, not really a positive situation, but still, I mean, Fire Dragonfly has options ahead of him to sort of, you know, try and sort that out. And of course, also, which is just basically focusing on the right-hand side, booby trapping as much as possible, of course, incendiary mines, and then, of course, a Panzer IV or something to basically hold down this area. For Stephenn, on the other hand, I mean, he's largely doing well. He's got most of his forces, he's got them quite upgraded, he's got anti-tank guns, he's got armored cars. He's not got a doctrine, but overall, you know, it's not looking rubbish for Stephenn. Of course, he needs to be careful, and of course, at the same time, he's also mining off, which is good. His anti-tank gun, though, is currently exposed. He needs to look into that, otherwise, of course, Fire Dragonfly could clear it up and perhaps even steal it, which would be bad news for Stephenn. Otherwise, I mean, Stephenn's got his tree set up, he's got supply, and he could consider some upgrades. Otherwise, I mean, the basic question is, what doctrine should he choose? I mean, infantry doctrine would be a nice one, I think. A few rangers, perhaps. Off-map combat groups, or perhaps some airborne. But I imagine Stephenn will go for something. I mean, not really much to say to Stephenn in this match. I mean, he's doing well, and he's largely so far guarded. I mean, it's rather down to what Fire Dragonfly actually does that rather determines how this game will progress. So let's return to the fact that Greyhound moves about a bit here. Anti-tank half-tech trying to set it, but also at the same time plays it a bit careful. Of course, doesn't want to set off any mine and doesn't want to get lured into any ambushes by Stephenn, which would definitely be a slightly humiliating experience. And there we go, anti-tank half-tech actually ambushing the anti-tank and ambushing the anti-tank half-tech. Slight mistake there on me. And there we go, the anti-tank half-tech goes down, leaving the armored car pretty much untouchable. Nothing can harm it, nothing can touch it, except a lucky mortar round from the mortar half-tech. This is definitely bad news of the highest caliber right there for Stephenn. There we go, second tree man goes down to the Greyhound. This is an absolute disastrous event and moment for Fire Dragonfly. Panzer Gunner is getting pushed off. More booby traps and other incendiary fun things going off. Mortar round close to hitting that engineer squad. Looks like another anti-tank half-tech is on the way for Fire Dragonfly. Perhaps some more swim mags. Nothing there from the Panzer command yet, which of course also then begs the question, why go for it? And then we go, quickly shifting the armored car and the anti-tank gun over to the west to try and contain Fire Dragonfly. Then, of course, just perhaps, you know, punish some of his things. Anti-tank half-tack number 2 rolls out. Panzer Grenadiers running into a bit of trouble, taking some minor losses down to 1 man. And Riflemen taking further unpleasant beatings. Anti-tank half-tech quickly on the spot. Panzer goes here fighting against Riflemen, forcing them away. In fact, suppressing them. Nice little combined arms maneuver. And finally, something going on in the Panzer command. Actually, also equipping some of his Panzer Grenadiers with assault rifles, increasing their firepower more considerably against Stephenn's infantry. Die Sturmgewehr, wir werden hier sterben. And there we go, actually spotting the anti-tank gun. Can he overwhelm it quickly enough? And Render it no longer a part of Stephenn's immediate plans, but at the same time Rifle Squad fighting and suppressing with the BAR. Nicely done at the same time. The Greyhound gets immobilized. The Panzer goes get pushed away. Of course, he could just use mortar half-tank to help blow it to bits. That would definitely be a good move. At the same time, we do see Stephenn's Rifle, and they're going to tank and firing away. Damage against the... Fire Dragonfly is going to lose another anti-tank half-tank. Where was the infantry? There was barely anything. Again, support your half-tank. The half-tanks were meant, to work with infantry. That was rather their point. They do not operate well on their own, yet it seems like that is what Fire Dragonfly is quite intent on doing. Armoured car a bit left behind. And mortar half-tank coming on direct fire from the anti-tank gun. A slightly, again, poor maneuver from Fire Dragonfly. And there we go. We do see the armoured car going down. We also see an German armoured car rolling forwards. Same one as will be in Company S2, except without the overdrive ability, and also starts out as the 221 with the machine gun, can later be upgraded to the 222 with the auto cannon on it. So a bit of fun there. Also a bit easier to deal with in Company of Heroes 2, but at the same time also cheaper. And again, that's again one of the things I rather like about Company of Heroes 2. Light vehicles are cheaper, but at the same time, of course, that also then matches their expendability, which is a bit the problem in Company of Heroes 1. Is in some cases, they're so cheap, but at the same time they're not cheap, but so weak, but at the same time they're also so considerably expensive in some cases. Which, rather only makes sense early in the game, but at the same time later on basically, renders them useless as soon as even something remotely armored comes on the field, because then again it simply can't be worth the price. On the other hand, with them being cheaper at the same time also that way, mitigating their expendability, of course you can also end up seeing them more in the later game as well, because again, there's a reason. And it won't be such a huge loss than if you lose one. The Panzer is moving forward. Rifle game continues to press, finally getting run off. Another anti-tank half-tank from Fire Dragonfly. Wonder what would it be like if he'd actually bothered with the Panzer IV. Still no doctrine from Stephenn. And we actually see a Hellcat out, so he's actually gone straight for a tank depot, getting himself a tank destroyer. That is to blow up those crap wagons. 2 anti-tank half-tanks, that's seems a bit much. And another booby trap goes off, exploding in the faces of the riflemen, but not actually exploding their faces off, which I'm sure the riflemen are quite appreciative. Anti-tank half-tank again. Slight problem here, keeps rushing in his support half-tanks, which does, put them in the line of fire and make them quite easy targets. Instead of having some infantry running ahead. Armored car trying to move up, but actually hits a mine, taking some nasty damage. Tries to provide some protection there again. The infantry from Fire Dragonfly is much too slow in actually being there to support, but we do see the Sturmgewehrs finally arriving. Shooting at the riflemen, and there we go, running them off. Anti-tank gun ready, and there we go. One of the anti-tank half-tanks goes up in flames. Like a cheap piece of fireworks. Mine engagement over here. Fire Dragonfly rather tragically overextended himself, failing to perhaps gain a slight advantage, for example here, where he could then overwhelm Stephenn's forces. Rather now, of course, he doesn't quite have the forces for it, which is rather sad and unfortunate. And there we go, pushing forwards again. Panzer Gunner is flanking nicely. And the other squad, the one with the Sturmgewehrs charging directly on the anti-tank gun. Armor car coming under fire, rifle moving up, they're actually getting suppressed. Mortar rounds landing, or at least attempting to land on that Hellcat. Armor car trying to dodge it. Oh, takes a hit, takes a hit. Close to going down, close to going down. Mortar rounds down, and booby trap going off somewhere. Mortar attack now too far removed, trying to do something against the Hellcat, and it is soon finished. Ready to move again, but again that's a bit the problem with an anti-tank gun which has not been dealt with. We're seeing a Jaeger command upgrade. Might he go for the Marder? Was it a more direct attempt at the... Nope, he's actually going for the Marder 3. Ausführung M. Which is one of the two variants based on the Panzer 38T. More specifically, the later variant. And there we go, actually Stephenn wrecking the wrecks further, of course, ensuring that if there's a Bergetiger, then he won't be able to recover them. Again, you know, nice denial tactics when it comes to equipment, and again, also will pay off in Company of Heroes 2, when again, there's actually a chance, you know, you're covering not just your own tanks, because, you know, they only get abandoned, but also enemy tanks. And in that case, you know, again, there's also the question, you know, of destroying them. That way, ensuring they don't fall into your enemy's hands. And there we go, the Marder 3. No idea if that will be in Company of Heroes 2. Perhaps later on. There's a doctrine. And Scorched Earth going on actually here from Fire Dragonfly. Interesting, interesting. But I think a bit of a empty gesture at this time of the match. No, he's getting another anti-tank half-track. The Marder not doing so much. Was what the 17th has had in their tank destroyer battalion. They were supposed to have the newer and better armoured, for the larger part, Jagdpanzer 4. The trouble is they never actually arrived in Normandy until too late, and then they were dispatched off to serve in another unit, or at least support another unit. A few other units, in fact, had that happen to them, as they were again supposed to get the Jagdpanzer 4, but again, it just didn't arrive in time. Now we do go Marder 4 score, Marder 3 scores an excellent hit with its Pack 40, another hit. One more shot and that Hellcat will go down, but can it succeed? And we're seeing field repairs up, so we do know that Stephenn's gone for the armor doctrine. Heads at the Marder, down close to going down, needs to shoot, don't stop moving, shoot, man! And too late. At the same time, we see a Pershing arriving and another Hellcat. That is pretty much GG. Stephenn delaying the coup de grace with the Pershing. And the Marder 3 never got to kill a single thing. What a shame. Flak feeling firing away. GG from Fire Dragonfly. Stephenn going GG, dude. Well played. Stephenn, for the most of the time, a gentleman, other times not quite as much. But there you go, swift, brutal fight. We saw some interesting play from the Panzer player. We actually saw a lot of infantry half-techs. His problem was, so partly the initial preservation of the infantry half-techs problem. Another one was he kept trying to be everywhere at once, which rather something Stephenn excelled better at, and rather took to his advantage. Rather what he should have been doing was, again, use those half-techs to quickly scout out any units out in the open, destroy them, then move on to the next target. Infantry half-techs give you a lot of mobility and a lot of firepower in the same package, in particular with infantry in it. Sadly, Fire Dragonfly never quite utilised that, and that rather gave Stephenn, of course, the advantage. And of course, Stephenn's great use of the buildings right here really disrupted things for Fire Dragonfly, and again gave Stephenn a further advantage because he never bothered with incendiary grenades, and he kept fighting around them instead of trying to find other easier targets, or to try to lure them march towards the point here again, and then rushing in with their half-techs, cutting out them, suppressing and killing. There was a few ways for Fire Dragonfly to do it there. And then, of course, came all the anti-tank half-tracks from perhaps a Panzer IV would have served better. And then, of course, there was this. Right, but again, some slight problems. Of course, by the end, though, Stephenn largely had the upper hand and basically went in for the killing blow. Perhaps one out of mercy, I'm not entirely sure. But well played by Stephenn. Again, some good things here from Fire Dragonfly, but ultimately falling a bit short. So there you go. Pardon the briefness, but still hope you enjoyed it. Still hope you learned something from it. If you did, why not subscribe? Tell your friends. If you didn't, well, why not send a replay of your own or provide some feedback in the comments. This is Imperial Dane saying cheers, and of course looking forward to Company of Heroes 2.